Okay, the worksheet for example 2 is the same file as the worksheet for example 1. Just move to the stock prices tab. A couple of changes I want to make is that these headers, I can't see all of them. So let me select all of those columns, just click and drag, and then bring your cursor to the border between. You get the double arrow cursor. And if you double click on it, it widens every column to the width of your widest entry. So in this case, it's the width of the headers. Okay, the scenario here is that your rich uncle on January 2nd of 2009 offered to buy you 10 shares of Google. And now 2 years later, you're looking back and saying, what would have happened if I had done Microsoft or Apple instead? Okay, so let's first highlight the row and then right click and insert some more space. Now notice when I do that, it copied down some formatting from that blue cell. A couple of ways to get rid of it. You can go to the font menu and get your fill bucket and put no fill. You could also go to your cell, your editing, and clear the formats. Okay, I want to know the value of that stock. So my uncle is offering 10 shares times $3.38 per share, $3,385. Or I could have the equivalent investment, so $3,000 of Microsoft stock. So it wouldn't be still 10 shares because the Microsoft value was only $15. So I want to have this value, but for all three. Now, if I try to copy it over, it doesn't work because I copied relative references, and now I have Microsoft close times 0 shares of stock. What I want to do is copy the formula or copy the value into this cell. If you hit Control-Alt-V, it will bring up the Paste Special box, and you can say whether you want to copy the values, the formats, comments, none. I want to copy just the value. So here's the difference. If I double click on this cell, I can see the contents are a formula. If I double click on this cell, it's really just a value. The formula bar is just a value. Faster way to do it, Control C, and then, so I've copied it, Control Shift V. We'll do copy values only. Okay, how many shares of stock would this be? I want to compute. It would be $3,000 now divided by $15.94. So 212 shares of Microsoft, or for Apple, $33.85 divided by Apple's price. Let me adjust these. I don't need to see that many decimal places. In your number menu on your home screen, it's this. Would automatically go to 2 decimal places, or again, these icons do more or fewer decimal places. For each month, we've got the prices at the start of each month through 2009 up through 2011. So the change in the Google price will be Google's closing price for February, subtract its closing price for January. So it lost 54 cents. That looks right. And if I copy that formula over, so those look correct. But that's the change in 1 share of stock. I want to know the change in the total investment. So I need to have this computation, change in the stock, multiplied by the number of shares of stock, which for Google was 10. So 54, down 54 cents per share, down 5.40 overall. Similarly for Microsoft, I want to have the change in the stock, but multiplied by the 212. If I copy the formula over, then instead of 10, it shifted to 212 shares. So that's all working great. Now I want to copy this down for February. However, when I do that, I run into some problems because let's look at this value error. Everything was relative references. So as I copied down the rows, the number of shares got moved down 2 rows. So when I copy these formulas, I want the adjusted close prices to be relative and to move down the column, but I want the number of shares to stay in this row. So here's how we're going to do that. Put your cursor near your B1 reference, that's for the number of shares, and then if I hit my F4 key once, it locks both the row and the column, but if I hit it twice, it locks only the row. So now when I copy it down, the red and blue cells are free to move down the rows, while the purple cell is locked on row 1. Now because the column is left unlocked, it doesn't have a $sign in front of it, if I copy it over, the column is free to move, but if I then copy that cell down, see the column is free to move to the right or left, but the row will lock. Lock the row on the apple. And now we should be free to copy it all the way down. I'm just going to double check everything's working as expected, that the cell references are doing what I wanted, and then I can copy it all the way down. And when I go to the bottom of the worksheet, notice that when I did that quick copy, it copied down to here. Something's wrong with these values. They're clearly off. And if I look at them, it's because it's trying to take next month's data, but I don't have any. So this last row, I don't want any values in there because they don't make any sense. And then same thing here. It was trying to copy the rows a little bit too far. Let me just get rid of those. My cumulative change, I want to sum all of the changes made in the Google stock. So this is highlight the first cell. If you hold down the Shift key, it'll select Arrange. If you hold down the Control key, it will select up to the top of the column. But I don't want the header, so I'm going to let go of the Control key and still holding the Shift key, go back down 1. Or you can click and drag, either way. So $3,073 is what the Google stock would have been worth. If I copy that formula over, it copied those relative references so that now it's summing the row for the Microsoft stock. So Microsoft $2,000 and copy over. The Apple stock went up by $11,000.